It was the summer of 2016 when I decided to take a solo road trip across the Southwest. I was 24, newly single, and craving the kind of self-reflection that only endless highways and gas station coffee could offer. I'd mapped a route from Phoenix to Denver, choosing the scenic route, long stretches of open desert, ghost towns, and quiet motels. It felt like the perfect kind of escape. About 4 days in, I hit a lonely 2-lane road somewhere outside of Gallup, New Mexico. It was late afternoon, the sun hanging low in the sky and casting everything in a soft orange hue. There were no other cars in sight, just tumbleweeds and sun-scorched signs for defunct diners. That's when I saw her, a lone figure walking on the side of the road. She was wearing a faded red hoodie and jeans, her thumb sticking out in that classic hitchhiker's pose. Something about her posture caught my attention. She wasn't waving or turning to look at oncoming traffic, just standing eerily still with her thumb pointed stiffly outward. I slowed down instinctively. I normally wouldn't pick up a hitchhiker, especially alone, but the desert had a way of making you feel guilty for leaving someone stranded. When I pulled up beside her and rolled down the window, she turned toward me. That's when I saw her face. She had no eyes. Her sockets were hollow, not bloody or gory, just empty. Shadowed voids that went deeper than they should. Her skin was pale, dry like paper, and stretched tight over sharp cheekbones. But what unnerved me most was her expression, calm. Like this wasn't strange at all. I froze, unsure of what to say. She tilted her head slightly and said in a quiet, emotionless voice, "Can you take me home?" I didn't answer, just stared. "Please," she added, her voice softer now. "I'm so cold." I snapped out of it, muttered something about being in a hurry, and slammed the gas pedal. My tires kicked up dust as I sped away, glancing once in the rearview mirror. She was gone. I don't mean she was shrinking in the distance or walking away. I mean she was gone, as if she had never been there. That night, I found a small roadside motel to crash in. The place was run down but cheap. I tried to brush off the encounter as heat stroke or desert delirium, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me. I kept glancing at the curtains, half expecting her pale face to appear in the window. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a soft knock on the door. 3 gentle taps, then silence. I stayed still, heart hammering in my chest. I hadn't told anyone where I was staying. The motel was nearly empty. I'd seen only 1 other car in the lot when I checked in. The knock came again. 3 more. Taps, then a voice. "Can you take me home?" I grabbed my phone and called the front desk. A groggy voice answered. I asked if anyone had come to my room. "No, sir," the man said. "Ain't nobody out here but you and me." I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I checked out early and hit the road. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe I'd dreamed it. Maybe the stress of the trip and the endless miles were getting to me. I made it to Colorado by sunset. The landscape changed, and for a while I felt okay again, until I stopped for gas at a small station off Highway 285. As I filled my tank, I noticed something scratched into the dusty side window of my back seat. "Take me home." I didn't wait to finish fueling. I jumped in the car and drove without stopping for hours. When I finally pulled over at a brightly lit rest stop, I checked the back seat. Nothing. No one. But the writing was still there, smeared into the glass. That night I stayed in a more populated area, a town with actual streetlights, businesses, people. I thought that maybe being around others would help, that the presence of normalcy would break the spell. But the dreams started. Every night for the next week, I dreamt of her, the girl with no eyes, standing at the foot of my bed, saying nothing, just staring. I could feel her gaze even without eyes. In the dream, I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I just lie there frozen, heart pounding, while she stood motionless, waiting. On the 7th night, I woke up to find the motel, room freezing cold, my breath fogged in the air. And there, scratched into the condensation on the mirror, were the words again, "Can you take me home?" That was the last straw. I cut my trip short and drove straight back to Phoenix in one long, white-knuckled haul. I didn't stop, didn't sleep, barely ate. When I got home, I parked the car, locked every door, and didn't leave my apartment for days. Eventually, the nightmares stopped. The writing never returned, but I never forgot her. And sometimes, when I'm driving alone, late at night, I swear I catch a glimpse of red in the corner of my eye, a flash of a hoodie, a still figure on the roadside, just waiting. In the summer of 2021, I was helping my cousin move from Indiana to Idaho. We had rented a U-Haul, loaded it with all her stuff, and were making the cross-country drive together. The plan was simple: 3 days, shared driving shifts, cheap motels, and bad gas station food. By day 2, we were cruising through the remote stretches of Nebraska, where the landscape rolls flat and endless, like a looping backdrop in an old cartoon. We were both exhausted from the drive and agreed to push through one last hour before finding a motel. That's when we passed mile marker 237 on Highway 83. I remember it because my cousin pointed out how oddly it stood. The sign was bent slightly, like it had been hit, and surrounded by nothing but open land. Not even a fence or a dirt road. It stood out. Not even 5 minutes later, the U-Haul started sputtering. I checked the gas gauge, it's still half full, but the engine coughed like it was choking. Then the dashboard lights blinked erratically before going completely dark. We coasted to a stop on the shoulder. No cell signal, no other cars, just us and the eerie quiet of the Nebraska plains. We sat in the cab for a few minutes, debating what to do, before deciding to walk back toward mile marker 237, hoping to find a side road, or maybe even a farmhouse we hadn't noticed. We hadn't gone more than 200 feet when we heard footsteps behind us, not the gravel crunch of our own shoes, different footsteps, quicker, lighter, someone else. We turned. Nothing. Just the darkening road stretching into silence. We kept walking. But the footsteps returned. Closer this time. My cousin spun around and yelled, "Who's there?" Silence. Then, no joke, the marker sign squeaked behind us like someone had touched it. We ran back toward the U-Haul, hearts pounding. When we reached it, the driver's side door was wide open. We had definitely shut it, locked it even. Inside, on the seat, was something neither of us could explain, a small cloth doll, hand-stitched old, with button eyes and a red yarn mouth. It hadn't been there before, and around its neck was a string with a tag that read, "You passed her, she noticed." That was enough. We grabbed our bags and started walking down the highway away from the truck, praying for any sign of life. The sun had fully set now and the air was cold, colder than it should have been for June. After about 10 minutes, we saw headlights approaching from the north. We waved our arms, frantic. The car, an old Ford pickup, slowed, then stopped, a few feet ahead. An older man in his 60s leaned out the window and said, "You broke down by 237, didn't you?" We nodded. He looked grim. "Get in, quick." Inside the truck, we told him what happened. He didn't say much, just kept driving. After a while, he muttered, "People don't stop there anymore. Not after what happened to the Mason girl." We pressed him for details. He told us that years ago, early 90s, a teenage girl named Lila Mason had been walking that stretch of road after her car broke down near mile marker 237. She vanished. Search parties found her shoe, some torn fabric, and a trail of small footprints leading into the fields. That was it. No body, no suspect, just an empty case and a lot of ghost stories. Locals claimed she still wandered the road at night, looking for help, and that if you drove past her without stopping, she'd follow you, mark you, play with you before deciding if she liked you enough to let you go. We asked about the doll. The old man didn't answer, just stared ahead and said, "You're lucky she's still playing. Most don't get that courtesy." He dropped us at a truck stop 20 miles out. When we offered money, he refused, said, "Don't talk about it to anyone, she hears that." We never saw the man again. The next morning, we returned to the U-Haul with a tow service. The truck was exactly as we'd left it, except for one thing. The doll was gone, and in its place on the driver's seat were 2 small muddy footprints side by side, pointed toward the steering wheel. Back in 2018, my buddy Travis and I took a road trip through the Rockies in Colorado. We were both avid hikers and amateur photographers, always looking for strange, off-the-map places to explore. Our goal that summer was simple: hit as many scenic back roads as possible and camp under the stars without a single reservation. Freedom, adventure, all that good stuff. But what we found on one remote road ended up changing both of us, and not in a we found ourselves kind of way. It was day 5 of the trip. We were somewhere near the San Juan Mountains, cutting across a narrow dirt road called Devil's Pass, not on any tourist maps, just a trail we spotted on a faded GPS app. Travis was hyped. He'd heard rumors on hiking forums that Devil's Pass led to an abandoned mining town buried deep in the hills. No one had posted photos of it, and it was supposedly untouched by tourists. The road itself was rough, winding, steep, and surrounded by dense pine forest. By the time we reached what looked like the final stretch, it was close to 7 p.m., and the sun was starting to dip behind the mountain range. Just as we rounded a bend, we saw it. A crooked, hand-painted sign nailed to a tree. All it said was, "Turn back." Naturally, Travis took that as an invitation. We pressed on for another half-mile until the road ended abruptly at what looked like the remnants of an old wooden gate. Beyond it, we saw broken cabins, collapsed shacks, and rusted mining equipment, half buried in the soil. It was all real, the ghost town we'd heard about. And it was quiet. No birds, no wind, no bugs, just stillness. We grabbed our cameras and got out to explore. At first, it was awesome. We poked through buildings, took some photos of the mine entrance, a gaping black hole in the earth, and marveled at how untouched everything seemed. No graffiti, no signs of recent visitors. It was like time had paused. Then Travis found the well, it sat behind one of the cabins, hidden beneath vines and warped planks. He kicked aside the cover, shined his flashlight into it, and immediately gagged. I looked over and smelled it too, the thick, metallic stench of rot. At the bottom of the well was something slumped and pale. Could have been a dead animal. But the shape, it was wrong. Too long. Too human. We both backed away. That's when we heard it. A sharp snap of a twig behind us. We spun around, but saw nothing. Travis whispered, "Let's go. Now." We turned back toward the car, only to find that the forest had shifted. I know it sounds insane, but the path we took in wasn't there anymore. The gate was gone. The road had vanished. Just trees, thick and unnatural. We tried to retrace. Our steps pushing through the underbrush where we thought the road had been, but we kept ending up in the same place, the ghost town. Like it had pulled us back. Then the whispers started. Faint at first, just beyond the tree line. Voices. Not in any language I knew, just breathy, overlapping murmurs. Male, female, young, old, chanting, laughing, mocking all at once. We ran back to the car, slammed the doors, and tried to start the engine. Nothing. The battery was dead, even though it had been perfectly fine earlier. Then the temperature dropped, and from the rearview mirror we both saw them. Figures, dozens, standing at the edge of the woods. Unmoving, watching. I can still picture them, pale, ragged, and wrong, like silhouettes made of smoke. Their eyes glowed faintly, some red, some blue, and they didn't blink. Travis started crying. I screamed at him to try the engine again. He did. It turned over. Once, twice, then finally roared to life. We gunned it. Didn't care where. The road was. Just tore through the brush, snapping branches and scraping the undercarriage. Somehow, by sheer luck or some sick mercy, we burst out onto a gravel road. The forest was behind us. Empty. The ghost town was gone. We didn't stop until we reached a gas station an hour later. The attendant there asked if we were coming from Devil's Pass. We said yes. He just nodded, eyes dark, and muttered, "People go up there to vanish. You're lucky you came back at all." We never talked about it again. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I hear those whispers again, and I still wonder what was in that well.